Morning, everyone. This is Russell with Russell Does Stuff. Welcome back to my channel. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning. So I have Raspy just got out of bed breath. And Raspy just got out of bed voice. Well, actually, I brushed my teeth and I had a glass of water, so hopefully it wakes up. I did a lot of listening yesterday when I was with my father. So I don't know why my voice is raspy this morning. But anyway, I work 6 hours on Monday, 6 hours on Tuesday, and whenever I don't get done, I work on Wednesday. And then I have all that time to myself to do whatever I want to do. Yesterday I wanted to hang out with my dad, and mission accomplished. For all of you out there that's lost your father or your mother, my heart goes out to you. And for those of you who still have your parents, give them a call. Go hang out with them. All right, this is part 2 of what happened to me when my employee stole all my stuff. I have to be a little vague about some things because there's part 2 of the lawsuit, which he's not going to show up to. He didn't show up to the first part. I'm guaranteed he's not going to show up to the second part. When someone steals something from you, there's a cost involved. I'm sitting on the mower that he stole. With taxes and all that stuff, this mower retails for around $13,000. Okay? So if you have a loan on this mower, you're in a pickle. I had a friend of mine that bought a new mower and it broke. And they wouldn't fix it. He paid on that mower for 5 or 6 years. That's just one of the risks involved with being in business, you know. So for years he paid that mower down, paid it off eventually, and never made any money with it. He did something stupid to it, I think. He ran it without oil or something, you know, which happens. We all make mistakes. So there's a cost involved when someone steals from you. I'm out the money for the mower, and then I'm out money that I could have made from using the mower. You know, I was always hiring people to work for me, and now we're down a piece of equipment, and I can't hire somebody to work for me because there's no equipment for them to use. For about a month, I was making phone calls trying to find an attorney that would help me get my mower back, get my equipment back. Okay, he conned me out of some other stuff also. And that's a lot of money right there. Well, we got the mower back in the first part, so he still burned me for another $5,000 or $6,000. But he can't run his new business anymore because I'm sitting on what he was using to run that company. So lawyers want $4,500 to take your case on. I called every lawyer on the internet that was in my area, and they all wanted $4,500, or they said no. It was something they didn't want to get involved with. Okay? Why didn't they want to get involved with Russell Does Stuff's theft of his equipment? They knew that there was a good chance I would never get this this equipment back. Okay? And that's just common sense thinking. You know, I'm fishing in a hole with no water in it, and they knew it. You know, this kid could have cut this thing up into pieces and took it to the scrapyard, and there was nothing I can do about it. Okay. So, and then if you go round two to be awarded damages and stuff, see, they don't know the damages on this mower yet until I get it back. So I've had lots of estimates on the repairs for this thing. Okay, so that's just an estimate for round two to go in there and be represented. When you're in the courtroom, they use words that I don't understand, and those words are important to getting your stuff back. You know, repellent. Never heard of that word in my entire life, but that was the key word in getting this mower back. Okay, so I'm also out my lost time. Could have been doing something else instead of sitting in a courtroom. Gas, you know, I had to eat lunch, you know, whoop-de-doo. You know, income loss. Now that's interesting. Did I lose money by not having access to this? Yes, I did. He handcuffed my ability to hire a new employee because some of the equipment I had, the employee used, okay? Not only is it backup, but it's also the equipment the employee will utilize when we're out working, okay? So if I had have gotten real busy, I would have had to have hired a new employee. And I might get real busy here in the next coming weeks because somebody wants a large landscape job from me. But I'm still going to stick to the hours that I want to work, and I'm going to hire somebody so that way I can offset that. Now we're going to have a repair bill, okay? I already have money into this in order to move it around without it being destroyed any further, okay? So having something like this happen to you, I only have one word to describe it. Sucks. This sucked, okay? How do you sleep at night when somebody stole almost $20,000 from you? It's not easy, you know. I'm sure there's other where people have lost far greater thing, like car was stolen or something. Your Hellcat Dodge was stolen, you know. That's a kick in the beep beep, you know. But this was part of my barn, you know. This was, you know, these were my tools. How do you steal someone's tools? I just don't get it. And people have their tools stolen all the time. So I was walking around the shop, probably a month or so, maybe 2 months after this happened to me and after I called all these attorneys and stuff. And I was sitting over here behind my left shoulder. And I just felt led to make one more phone call. So I called this attorney named Jeff. And the phone rang for a few minutes. And he answered the phone. And I told him what's going on. I said, this kid that stole everything from me filed a restraining order against me. And he asked me to explain the situation to him, so I did. I said I tried helping this kid out who had children, who was down and out on his luck, who said he was harmed by the hurricane, and he was facing devastation and whatever. He knew I wasn't lying. He's an attorney. He's talked to thousands of people. Without hesitation, this man said, "Meet me in my office at 4:30. It's like 3 o'clock or something in the afternoon. And I had wound down my day and stuff, you know. I said, all right, I'll be there. So I gathered up my stuff and keys and everything, and I headed over to his office. We go into his office and we sit down, and he wanted to hear the story again. And he said, well, I'll represent you with that restraining order that he filed, but you're not going to get your mower back. You know, there's no way you're going to get that back. If you get it back, it's going to be destroyed. But likely he'll sell it. And all these attorneys knew that. You know, they were just trying to see if I was dumb enough to give him $4,500, you know. So he said, I'm going to help you and I don't want any money. I'll do it for free. I said, we don't have to do that. He goes, no, I'll represent. I'll just show up. You meet me at the courthouse. I'll go in with you. That was what his words were. I'll go in with you. I've been in a courtroom maybe twice in my life, all right? And the thought of going in the courtroom is like, oh my goodness, you know, anxiety, fear, you know, danger, you know. So a couple weeks went by and we had that hearing. I showed up, he showed up, he had his backpack full of computers and everything he would have needed and stuff. So as the minutes ticked down to the time that I was supposed to go before the judge, we realized that Brandon didn't show up. Now, if you don't like somebody, you can file a restraining order against them, whether it's true or not. In the courthouse, the courtroom was filled with some other people that had the same thing happen to them. I had a guy sitting next to me who was in the lawn care business, and he had put on his best clothes. And I could tell he didn't own an iron and stuff. You know, we're sitting next to each other, and he's sitting there with this piece of paper in his hands, stone-faced, nervous. And I looked over at him and I said, you look nice this morning. And he smiled. So, a little humor. I thought it was funny. The guy and my wife started laughing, you know. That kid hadn't dressed up that nice in probably 30 years of his life, you know. And he told me that he was in here for a restraining order. And he goes, I didn't do any of this. And I said, well, I didn't do any of the stuff that I'm being accused of either, you know. So since he didn't show up, it got dismissed. But I think it's on the record that I did all these horrible things to this employee. So I think it's in the court record somehow. And while I was sitting there, I noticed my attorney, Jeff, was bouncing around the room, talking to the other attorneys, answering their questions, helping them with their case. And then he says to me, you're good. And then he walked over there to another attorney, and then he said to her client, you're good, get out of here. And I'm sitting there going, what's going on here? Well, come to find out, my attorney's like a super attorney. He helps people, like I help people. So, he doesn't pass up an opportunity to help anyone. So he's in there helping the other attorneys out with their case. As soon as he walked in that courtroom, they flocked to him. Hey, can you answer this question? And I'm thinking, what do they do if he's not there? Do they lose their case? You know? No, they call him on the phone. You know? I'm going to close this door a little bit. I think the sun's peeking through. All right, everybody can still see me, I guess. So, I wasn't going to let him do that for free. So I tried shoving $300 in his pocket. He didn't want to take it. I made him take the money. He gave me and my wife a hug. We all hugged, and I thanked him and all that and stuff. And I asked him, I said, what about the mower and the equipment he got from me? He goes, there's nothing you can do about it. He's going to destroy it or sell it. You guys have a good day, and if you need anything else, give me a call. So we left the courthouse. I went home, put my work clothes back on, and I went to work. So for the next month or so, I was still trying to figure out how to get my mower back. Did he sell it? Did he steal it or whatever? So one morning I decided to put on one of those safety orange vests, and I put on a hat, and I drove over to where Brandon, in the area where Brandon lived. And I drove around the back of what I thought was his house, and I look through the yards, and there's my mower. He had the other equipment on the other side of the house. And by this time, he had installed a bunch of security cameras and stuff. And my phone calls to him didn't get him to budge. He wasn't going to budge and give me my stuff back. He was firm on that. So I walked through the neighbor's yard behind his house, and there's my stuff. I had an extra key on me. I was just going to jump on that mower and drive away. And something told me not to. So I beat it back to the truck, and I'm nervous. I'm like on this covert mission here, dressed as a cable worker or a construction guy. And I went a couple streets over, and I just sat there, probably for an hour, trying to figure out what to do. So close, but yet so far away, So I called Jeff. I said, look, Jeff. And he's like, hey, how you doing? Good to hear from you. I said, I'm over here by this kid's house, and the mower's out in the yard, and I got a key. What do you think? He goes, don't do anything. Meet me in my office in an hour. He said, I'm coming back from a hearing in court, and meet me in my office in an hour. So I ran back to headquarters and put my truck and trailer away and jumped in my other vehicle and then hot-footed into his law office. So I walked in his office and I sat down, and he said, Russell with Russell Does Stuff, this is what we're going to do. We're going to sue him. That's the only way to get your mower back. We're going to sue everybody. I said, all right, how's this going to work? What do you need from me? So he needed all the paperwork I had on it. I need to prove to the judge that it is mine. I had to prove all this stuff, police reports and all that stuff. I had to get all that information. And I said, all right, how much do you want? What's this going to cost me? Because I knew these guys, what they wanted. He goes, I don't want to charge you anything. He goes, I'm going to do this for nothing. I said, for nothing? You don't have to do, I'll give you something. He goes, no, I don't want anything. I said, all right, I appreciate it, thank you, you know. So he started working on my case, and when you sue somebody, there's a bunch of stuff that has to take place. You have to let that person know what's going on. So they need to be served. So he filed the case. Brandon has to get served, and he was served at his work because he wouldn't answer the front door of his house. It took a couple weeks to find somebody that would serve him the lawsuit case, paperwork, stuff. And that cost money. I think they wanted $90 to do that. So he played hide and go seek. Finally was served, you know, at the pizza restaurant where he had his other job. And now it begins. He gets to respond to that. So he wrote a response, you know, claiming that it was okay to steal stuff from people. And after he did that, then we had to petition the court for a date. So my attorney now I can call him my attorney, like disappears on me for a month. And I don't want to bug the guy, and I would text once in a while, hey, this is Russell with Russell Does Stuff, just checking in to see what's going on and stuff. And he just vanishes. He's not in his office, he's not answering his phone. I don't know what's going on. So, all the meantime, you know, Brandon's out mowing with my equipment, making money. Finally, like December or something, I get a text from Jeff telling me that he's been in the hospital, and he had, 6 inches of his intestine removed and his gallbladder removed. And I'm like, oh wow, and he apologized, to everybody, all his customers and me, that he had vanished, and he had a good reason to vanish. He was in the hospital. So the timeline, if I stand corrected, was he went in the hospital. It was after Christmas he went in the hospital. Because I felt led to give him a Christmas gift. Okay? Every year my company gives people Christmas gifts. And I put together a nice Christmas gift for him. I put money in this box. Because he had a situation that happened to him, and I'll get into that in a minute. So I was trying to help him out with his personal situation, but I didn't know anything about him going to the hospital. So the gift that I gave him for Christmas coincided with his operation. Okay. So I gave him clothes, some things for his daughter, a couple things for his wife, and I gave him a jacket that I had that I never wore. And it was about an $80 jacket, if you want to put a monetary value on it. And I put that in this box. And when my company gives people Christmas gifts, I'll give it to him really early. So this was early. So he got this box before he went into the hospital. So while he was having his operation, he was laying in his jacket in the hospital. It was keeping him warm. And then after his operation, he laid in that jacket for three weeks or so. So he got the gift before he went to the hospital. Okay. So it was January, maybe the second week of January, when I finally got a message from him. Hey everybody, I've been in the hospital and sorry to inconvenience everybody, etc. So I'll call everybody next week. So now another week's gone by. So we've heard from the attorney. Okay. So when he got out of the hospital, he went right back to work. And he got the flu or something too, and so he was just in bad shape. And I found that for like 2 months he was unable to like take on clients and stuff because of the condition he was in. So hopefully that I make everything clear. I should have wrote it down here. I'm left-handed and I get foggy on dates and stuff, timelines and things. It's just a left-hander's thing, I think. So he calls me up and he says, hey, we have a court date. I said, all right. So the court date was like late March 24th or something. And I asked him how he was doing and stuff, and he was beat up, you know. He had been in like 3 or 4 football games with no pads. He was pretty beat. I said, hey, just, you know, don't worry about me and stuff. Concentrate on all your other customers and stuff. So, and he always has this great attitude, like, all right, you know, and he always asks me how I'm doing, and I'm like, well, I'll be doing all right if you be doing all right, you know. I mean, because this is my only hope, you know. This is like a Star Wars movie. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you know. So Jeff had a situation going on in his life besides the health struggles. He lost his house in Hurricane Ian. I think that was about 3 years ago. It ripped the whole roof off of his house. And the insurance company did some stuff, and he ended up having to, he stayed in the house for like 9 months. He had nowhere to go, I guess, you know, if that's accurate. He had to move into an apartment, and he was just going through a lot of struggles. Paying for an apartment, paying a mortgage, paying his office, etc. He was in a tough situation. So my situation, I felt bad. I'm like, I had my equipment stolen and your house got blown up and destroyed by a hurricane, you know. And this mower that I'm sitting on didn't matter anymore, okay? What I went into, I need to help Jeff mode because this is the only guy on the planet that would help me. And I talked to some very, very well-to-do lawyers that could have just helped me for not that, just to make a situation right, but that's, if they do that for me, they have to do that for everyone else. So Jeff is in a rough spot. You know, his situation hasn't been made whole. So I stepped up what Russell normally does to another level. Russell does stuff, always helps people out. I thought I was helping this kid out who stole from me. Well, now I'm going to turn all that energy towards Jeff and see if I can help him out. So, bugs in the morning. So, I figured out some of the stuff that Jeff needed because he lost everything in the hurricane. We gave him clothes. I gave him a brand new laptop. I was always dropping cash off at his office. Whatever I could do to help him out. I raised money. Had some of my customers donate money to him. You know, you're in the hospital for a few months, you know, and you can't service your customers and stuff, you know, that puts you in a bigger, a tighter spot than he was already in. So I made up for all this through donations, and I've tried to help him in a bigger way. And I've never fundraised for anybody in my life. I didn't do a GoFundMe or anything. I just asked some of the customers I knew, hey, this is what's going on. I had my equipment stolen. The guy helping me is doing it for free. And guess what? He lost his whole house in a hurricane. I'm a good salesman. How do you convince somebody to donate to a person they don't even know? I decided to sit down and spend about 15 minutes a day figuring out that problem. I wrote up a nice letter and I mailed it to everybody I know. I handed it out to everybody I know. And I tried to figure out who would help me and who would not. The people I thought that wouldn't donate money to Jeff did. And the people I thought that would didn't. Now I learned something about people that day. Some of the wealthiest people I know ignored me. Okay? Jeff needed a few $1,000s to play catch up for being in the hospital. And I knew that. You know, I'm not going to walk in his office, hey man, how's my case going, you know? You're broke as a joke and you're living in a 1-bedroom apartment sleeping on the floor, your wife and your daughter sleeping in the bed, and when you guys want to hang out together, you're all sitting in a love seat. You know, because there's no room in this apartment for a couch. Now, I'm thankful they got shelter, okay? But attorneys are just like us. We're service people. We provide a service, you know? And my thoughts on attorneys were, oh, they're all rich and stuff. No, this guy's an adoption attorney. He helps families with autism and stuff. Let me go back to the donations. The people that gave me money, I thought in a million gazillion years that they would never do that. And these are some of the people that were mean to me and called me all the time and bugged me all the time and treated me bad, you know. A lady that gave me money for Jeff, I fired her like 7 months ago. 8 months ago. And she went through a bunch of different companies and stuff. She gave me quite a bit of money towards him, you know. I think it was like $250, you know. Another family, they gave me $1,000, you know. I couldn't believe it, you know. I guess they're really good people deep down inside, you know. Didn't even want to read the letter. My telling them a little bit of the story was just enough, and they gave, you know. So Jeff had a secret. 60 Minutes interviewed him. Every news organization on the planet has interviewed him. He was on the news last night. No one has helped this man. Nobody. But me. And some of my customers. And my dad and my good friend Greg. If Brandon hadn't have stolen my stuff, I would have never met Jeff. And I would have never have been able to help him. When I brought that into his office, that money I collected, he showed me giggling around his accounts. They were overdrawn. And I said, I have a surprise for you. Yeah, what do you have? Russell does stuff. What can you surprise me with? I emptied out my wallet and I took the money I raised and I tossed it on his desk. I don't even know what the amount was. I didn't count the money in my wallet. It was quite a bit, but it didn't matter. You know, for a few days went by, I was like, how much did I give him on top of the people that also gave, you know? I'll never know, and I don't want to know. But it made him whole for a moment. He was shocked, he couldn't believe it. You know, he was like, really? You're gonna help me out? I'm like, you helped me out, you know? So, that got him out of a spot. He's still in a spot. He's still struggling from customer to customer, you know. When you're down like that, it's hard to dig yourself out of a hole, you know. So he got the money that he needed to pay the rent, hopefully pay his office rent, and, you know, I think he said to me, you know, I bought a chicken, you know, he got some dinner, you know. I know he's still just barely getting by, you know, because I asked him how he was doing the other day, and he said, I'm doing great. He's got this great attitude, you know. He goes, I'm doing great. I said, I don't know, you know. He goes, you can see right through me, can't you? You know, and this is an attorney. You know, when he first started out his practice, he was helping people with domestic abuse cases and stuff. His daughter has autism and stuff, so he's a champion for those folks. And so this is where the story gets bad. So Jeff told me about 3 weeks ago that when they did a blood test on him, that his PSA levels or whatever were really high. So Jeff now has stage 4 prostate cancer. So that I heard that in the courtroom. I went to the court house with him last week and sat there while he was having to deal with the insurance company in that situation, you know. And his attorney at the very end mentioned that he had stage 4 prostate cancer. I knew that he thought that he had cancer, but he wasn't real sure how bad it was and stuff, but he said it lit up like a Christmas tree. So my attorney had become my friend over the last 8 months. I consider him my friend now, you know. Now I have a friend that has stage 4 prostate cancer, you know. And I told my wife, I was sitting in the courthouse, I said, I gotta get up and walk out. This is, I can't, you know. She goes, you have to stay, you have to stay to the end. You've sat here the whole time, you have to stay till the end. So the second part of this lawsuit, round 2, I'm not even thinking about at all. You know, I'm concerned about him and what he's going through and stuff. And this is a moot point now. I told him, you know, hey man, don't worry about that. It's no big deal. And he says he still wants to pursue it, you know. And I haven't brought it up or anything. Right now, I have to be the best friend that I can be to him. And that's what I'm going to do. So, if you want to, this is the part in the video where it's call to action. If you want to learn more about Jeff's situation, it's 60 minutes, insurance fraud. You just type in Jeff Rapkin, insurance fraud, etc. It'll take you to the YouTube video with 3.4 million views on it. And you can read about his situation. So, sometimes when people do bad things in your life, there's some good that comes out of it. You meet somebody that you're going to become friends with for the rest of your life. You know, I'm worried about Jeff, you know. It's funny how life works, you know. God giveth, God taketh, you know, that kind of thing. So, I'm going to do a few things to this mower today so I can move it around and finally quit raining. And that's the second part to this theft story. Jeff Rapkin, like napkin, but with an R, is a man who helped me when nobody else would. And I only think one person was considering that, but wasn't interested in it. He helped me when no one else wanted to help me. And I'm forever grateful that he's done what he's done, because I can sleep at night now. I know that there's not a bad guy out there using my equipment, running his own business with my stuff. I'm lucky. You know, I knew who stole from me. I even had an insurance policy that covered me against theft. And the insurance company said to me, well, was there an arrest? I said, no. And they said, well, there's nothing we can do, ha ha ha, boo hoo hoo, to you, you know. I dropped that insurance policy. I paid that insurance policy for 7 years just for this type of a situation. An arrest had to have been made in order for me to be made whole. Insurance, what's it good for? You know? But anyway, Jeff Rapkin. I had one of my subscribers who's become a friend. His name's Stevie G. He felt led to help me out. And I don't ask people for anything. And we were on the phone last week, and his business donated $100, and which I gave Jeff Rapkin last week. I took him to lunch. He didn't even want that. He's like, no, you don't. No, you keep. I said, no. I said, Stevie G, my boy, wanted you to have this. So there's some good people out there, okay? And I think it's a tax deduction, Stevie G, donation. So when you're sitting with your accountant next year, bring that up to her. So we appreciate you, Stevie G, and you brightened my day up last week, and you brightened his day up a little bit. You know, put some gas in his tank, and he was able to buy some food and stuff for his family. So, all right, well, enough of that sad, mushy stuff. this is what happens when somebody steals something from you. You might make a great friend out of that whole situation like I did. So, sorry the video is so long. I didn't want to do a part 3 because it would have been, this much or whatever, 8 minutes long or something. So I thought I'd get it all out now. So sorry everybody had to sit through this. And this is Russell with Russell Does Stuff. And Russell has a new friend named Jeff Rapkin, because Brandon did something bad to me. Catch you on the next one.